Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you on Friday, May 5th. Today we have a quick video discussing a viewpoint in the market that JP Morgan is perhaps cornering the silver market, or in either case has accumulated an incredibly large amount of silver. Certainly, in my opinion, one of the most important developments, and again I say potentially going on in the silver market, because to be completely honest, I couldn't tell you for sure whether what JP Morgan holds or doesn't hold. Um, my guess is even probably most of the people at JP Morgan wouldn't be able to give you an exact answer, let alone anyone outside of the bank. But keep in mind, again, none of this is trading advice, and for all of the legal disclaimers out there, I can't tell you for sure one way or another, but just as a trained trader, where often what is succeeding versus not is sifting through a lot of rumors that are out in the marketplace, some of which are accurate, some of which are not, and just to the degree that I read a lot about JP Morgan having acquired a massive amount of silver over these past 6 years. Personally, I think it's very likely to be the case. But again, with all these things, I'm not giving investment advice, just sharing my views here. Do your own homework, and I'll just perhaps point out some things that are not covered in the Wall Street Journal or CNBC or CNN. And the short view is that basically when silver went up to $49 in 2011, that many believed that JP Morgan was short a large amount of silver and was losing a fortune. Then at the, actually just around this time, about 6 years ago, is when you saw silver plummet. And many believe that since then, JP Morgan has been on an epic silver buying spree. And again, one of the reasons why it's a little tricky, and I'm always careful of how I word these things, is that, well, really in any of the financial markets at this point, just because an exchange or a bank or the government puts out the data, all I can say is in my career, which included my first job out of school was working for Moody's for 2 years, then business school at Wharton, an internship at Merrill Lynch, then 7 years trading for an equity options firm. I find that a lot of what we're told is often not the way it is. So especially with a lot of the data that comes out, I'm stunned by the day of each day how many inaccuracies there are, sometimes, in my opinion, intentional. So you really have to be careful of where you're getting your data from. I don't know, maybe the COMEX reports that issue that the largest four banks are doing on a weekly basis, maybe they're giving good information. Maybe they're not, which is why it's really important to sift through all the clues that are out there. Think about who's done what before. It's like a poker game, which I think is unfortunate that I would say a rigged poker game is what our financial markets have been turned into. But in either case, certainly worth Googling and seeing what you find. In particular, as I mentioned before, like following Ted Butler and think he does a great job of researching, where he's tracked some of the Silver Eagle sales, some of the redemptions from SLV, and he pegs JP Morgan currently holding approximately 600 million ounces of silver, which, if true, is, and again, I can only share my belief and I can't make any declarative statements, but I believe that some form of that is likely to be accurate, which makes you think, why would a bank that is, and I believe their last public comment about the silver market, it's been a couple of years where they said they're primarily acting as a market maker on behalf of their clients. So why they would have such a large amount, and to put that in perspective, that would represent about a third of the investment grade silver above ground. So perhaps another way of thinking about that is, imagine if you were seeing wild swings in oil and gas prices, And then you find out a little bit later it's because one of the banks has been storing a third of the world's oil supply somewhere for who knows what reason. Yet certainly I would argue that there have been many things that are in direct conflict of U.S. securities law. I have some emails that have times when I've contacted regulators that would basically confirm as much, and a whole host of unanswered questions. So in the end, it's just very curious of why a bank would have that, although perhaps more importantly, if that theory or argument is correct, and JP Morgan was massively short silver, and now they're long an absurd amount of silver. Certainly would be, in my opinion, one of the, when I look at what will end the silver manipulation, basically you have two primary possibilities that I see, which would be eventually enough people come in requesting their metal, it's not there, and just the physical market overwhelms what's happening with the paper supply. Or if you had something where one of the banks or one of the groups that many believe is the prime dog in some inappropriate behavior, well, if they've changed their position and now stand to benefit massively, Ted says, according to his calculations, he thinks they make about $1 billion for every dollar silver goes up. As I've said before, I think silver is... if we get 3-digit silver this year or anytime soon, I wouldn't be surprised. So anyway, again, as always, do your own homework. Check everything I've said. Maybe I'm right. Maybe there's something else going on, but just trying to point out some of the things that people are wondering about, which aren't reported. And I think is unfortunate because a lot of people are losing money because things aren't really clear and transparent. So that's all we're pointing out here. Leave your questions and comments below. And as always, appreciate you listening and hope you have a great weekend. Thanks.